I recently watched the four Mad Max movies with my neighbors, and it was a lot of fun. It's been the first time I've done this quite a while, so I really thought I knew what to expect, but I was pretty pleasantly surprised from the get go. I was really just shocked with how much attention I had for the first movie. I don't ever remember watching the first Mad Max all the way through and thinking, "Wow, this is cool." I do always remember the visuals. There's that police station with all those drawers that are just open and all those papers flying around. And there's just these almost nebulous wastes just because, like, I don't know, everything's so wacky out there. Um, it puts you in a sense of familiarity and unease because if we were to see these things in real life, we would go clean them and fix them. But they happen so often that it just it doesn't go through. So the scenery I remembered, I really remember enjoying, but this time around, I just I was compelled. I don't know. The characters were great. I like how cartoony the sergeant was. We need heroes, Max. And I liked the sidekick. The blonde guy, was great. He was essentially just another Max. I mean, he was a motorcycle Max, I guess. And the thing about him is that could have been Max. When he gets burnt up, that could have been Max. And his burning up is well, it's incredible because the guy that burns him, he's like, he didn't really want to do it. He was coerced to do it. I mean, of course, he wasn't forced. He did it just because his boss told him to. But regardless, that made, even though the bad guys didn't have an incredible faction fashion, not quite like the Warriors or other things from the movies from a contemporary era with faction fashion. Um, it just really added a lot to the just understanding the bad guys. So character wise, I guess Mad Max. The second time I watched it, I connected. I resonated a lot more. Max, he was in it to win it at the end. Um, so I suppose we can go through the line. The next movie, the teeth guy. I don't know. He worked out. He worked out, I guess, as a sidekick just because he knew what the audience knew, which was that he's Mad Max's sidekick. Somehow he just knew that. I like how he was kind of Mad Max. Kind of had, since he's not a cop, he changes between the first and the second movie. He's not a cop anymore. He's a scavenger. That's what he does. I mean, the movie hints at it. It doesn't really show it because they still need you to have empathy for him and not just see him as a raider. But he wasn't staying alive finding acorns. He was either scavenging off of dead corpses or making them. It doesn't really clear or suggest so much that second one, but I think there's plenty to infer there. So in the second one, he kind of has to make these ragged alliances, and that's kind of a trope that goes on through the whole series, but it's acceptable because I want him to be a scavenger. I want him in the second Mad Max to be the road warrior, and then from there on to follow that legacy. So he's not, because it's just because he wouldn't have been there if he was so dang trusting all those times beforehand. They need to make it clear that this is an exception and that sometimes he doesn't even have a choice. And so the tooth guy, I don't know, he was cool. It was cool that he could fly. I think they were like, wow, they have flying shit. That was what the second one offered, was flying shit, and that was pretty cool. The kid was just so campy. I hate this sort of I wouldn't say comic relief or like, I don't know what, the boomerang kid. I don't know. Did not resonate well with me at all. Just so unnecessary for the most part. Other than the fact that he was the narrator, but that was a cool twist. But you see, they just kept on twisting. they just kept on twisting, and it left my titty twisted. Um, it turns out that the man from the sky, ends up running the tribe, and it just feels shallow because he's basically the only named character that's still alive after the battle. And this whole narrative is just it's bullshit anyways because it doesn't I don't know, it doesn't account for the second movie where the guy is clearly not there anymore. He's at a different place, so he's not running the tribe. Did he just run them for a brief period? And if so, was that so? There's inconsistency there, whatever. The faction fashion, it was odd. I think the guys that Max actually allies with, they have like a mix of like gym equipment and like high school stuff, and I'm just trying to imagine sorry, and the stuff that high schoolers would wear, like high school, like I don't know, like sweatband. Maybe it's all athletic wear. Maybe I'm just conflating, but it seems like such an odd choice. I don't know. It doesn't. I guess it just doesn't look cool. I guess that's my thing. It doesn't look cool. I don't like it. There's a couple of people dressed up in like cow, like pelt. Like there's one guy, and he's a raider, and he actually has like a cow car, which is really weird. And then there's people. Okay, I guess the only reason it bugs me is there's also people inside the compound with the same like the same kind of faction fashion, wearing cow stuff. It just the inconsistency there. I don't know, but I like the guy, the cripple that was on the crane or whatever. That guy was great just because, at the end, because the twist got me. The twist actually got me for the ending of The Road Warrior. I watched it, it's been so long, and the twist got me. And, I was just like, why would they have a cripple defending the oil or the guzzling? Why would they have a cripple defending the guzzling? But it's because he was expendable. He was meant to die. They knew that. They didn't just send someone. They didn't just send him just because he was a named character. That was fantastic. He died that way. But his death was horrifying because it was in junction with that Amazonian chick, that like warrior woman. And it was it was a horrifying moment in the show. They really hit me right here when they just drag her off the tanker to tumble beneath the wheels of the many vehicles underneath. And it doesn't even zoom in on it. It doesn't it's just they just grab her, she's done. And so you have to piece it together in your mind. The movie makes it so you what happened to her? But I mean, the last time I watched, I didn't think twice about it. Maybe it's because I didn't recognize her as a character. So that was great. I don't know. I like the stoic leader of the camp. He was just kind of just putting up with Max's bullshit. Like, come on, man, help us. You think you could just get out of here? So he tries to run away, and then Max gets run down, and Max is like, I want to play with you now. And he's like, no, you dickhead. You already said. I don't know. That was a great line. So character wise, that's great. Humongo. Okay, if he set this archetype for this wasteland sort of warlord, if he sets this archetype, and this is this classical thing that I associate the wasteland warlord with, if he's the one that did that, then I think it's great. If not, I feel like he's just ripping off this warlord archetype, and I don't know. It's the fitness and gym shit posting pages, they kind of make me worship him. His death is just so comical. It's not even comical. It's like, I don't know. It's comical. It's like Looney Tunes. So it's hard for me to really look back and take him seriously, just with how stupid his ending is. My favorite one though was his. My favorite one of his gang though was that guy that was he just hung on top of the buggy. And I know this is a member moment, but he's just a great character. He's just so much personality there. He's just this sycophant. It's just and you look at him, he's slimy. I mean, if you touch his coat, it'd be like, and you just like have to wipe your hand off on something immediately just because he's so greasy. But that was great. I thought that the bad guys had like a unified fashion, which was kind of this like hair metal kind of like deal because that's what you see of them at first with the bikers, and I thought that's like basically what they were with these biker guys with these little like dart guns. So I thought they were gonna be like these really like fast and quick like freaky guys, and I don't know. I guess once again I'm either griping because they didn't really have a defined idea where they're going with this whole mobile warband, or they created the first mobile warband. I don't know if anyone's ever done it before them, and they're just like they set this precedence that has inspired so much intellectual property from all the like they themselves. If they did it first, which they might have done it first, um, really have just given me so many moments of enjoyment over the years through all these interpretations of Road War. So I don't know. All in all, the movie does at least a nice job of giving a separate aesthetic to every single thing that every single faction and a lot of people in those factions. There's memorable distinctions there at the very least. Like, because what did I say about the Road Warrior One? I need like sorry, Mad Max One. I need like just a couple characters. But in the next one, I'm just spouting them off. But the thing that unifies both the factions, though, is this use of cars as like tools and like all. I don't know. It's just like a way of life. Like they have that. The commune has like this little um, bus that it's a gate. That was cool, and they do things like that. I'm trying. Um, I mean, all the scenery, even like, and if you just pay attention to the shots with Max. Pay attention to the shots with Max. I know I'm bleeding over into different topics here, but you're gonna see like wrecked cars in the background, like way in the back. Like the camera's just like it's just like this big in the camera, and they were shooting with this like I don't know this old shitty film or whatever back then. I don't know. So they really put it in there just because they wanted to get it across, regardless of what would actually be recorded, which it shows a level of detail which might not have been there anyways, or maybe I don't know that much about the development of film. That could be possible. Maybe I'm making a statement there. Mad Max 3, um, my favorite. I mean, who wouldn't like Master Blaster? They're great. They are great. I love the idea. They had okay, so that they've got the big guy, right? They've got the big guy for Mad Max to fight in the Road Warriors. So what are they? They've got to give him like something to fight. All right, they've got to give him at least. I don't know. They got to keep going. They've got to have someone for him to fight. And so how do they do a change on it? Well, they make two characters that are like sandwiched together, and one's Master, one's Blaster, and Blaster just made. I don't know how or why I didn't remember the bungee tethers, the bungee tether fight. It was incredible. It was so cool. I'm not even being sarcastic when I say that. It was so. I hadn't seen anything like it before. I don't know why I didn't pay attention. I remember them going and fighting the dome, but I thought they just like ran at each other and like stabbed like in every other movie. So that was great. Um, the twist that Queen Latifah or whatever her name, oh yeah, Tina Turner, that she was the bad guy. That was great. That was once again they hit me with the twist. Um, because like I saw it coming, but the first time I saw it, I didn't see it coming, and it was just like what? What was really the worst thing about Master Blaster besides the fact that they wanted to be recognized as the rulers of the city? I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a power grab, that's a coup or whatever, and their use of throttling the power as a means to enact the control. I mean that's bad, but it's a lot. It's negotiation, I guess, in a way. I mean, it's one kind of negotiation, but it's better than just violence. I think it's so much better than just violence, and so um, her character was great because she really does kind of like build into this archetype of, hey, I'm a big bad guy, but I need your help, and so we're gonna be cool. Or I mean, I don't even know if that's a archetype or a trope, but that's what I believe, and so that was a lot of fun. Um, it seemed like when she let him live, it was a break, fourth wall break. But um, I'm not really too familiar with Tina Turner, to be honest. And no, I'm sure I've seen and heard her music. I just couldn't identify it immediately. I don't think. Um, but it does attribute to her raw charisma that she can kind of just let him live and just like, you fucked up my city, whatever. I'm just gonna go on an adventure. That was kind of what I took from it, and it was lighthearted. Uh, boy, the Lost Children arc. I liked that it was an interesting way of getting exposition across because I mean you're hearing it from the mind of a child, and so you really have to dig deep and figure it out. I like even the theme there. Um, it's just kind of the solemnness on the older boy's face, but I don't know. I don't know. It wasn't the funnest part, I guess I'm gonna say of it. And so then we go to Mad Max Fury Road, and that one is just it's great. It's such a it's such a spectacle. Fury Road is such a spectacle. Okay, so you're starting off with Max, okay, and it is the same Mad Max. It's not a reboot, okay. In fact, like he even says he's a cop. It's just Mel Gibson was too old to play Mad Max, so they used the Tom Hardy. Um, I'm not really too sure how I would rate his performance, but it doesn't really matter. But it's cool though that now he's like spooked out by these ghosts, and so he kind of has these ghost reflex powers that but they aren't delivered as powers. It's delivered as like this a bit like he's running away from the war boys, and you see the girl Max. He was supposed to protect us, and like all these people are just like Max. You said you'd save us, and all this, and he's like a caveman. He really is a caveman, and it works. It really does. I think that um, it really just breaks this narrative that the main character of the Waste is immune to all the ravagings of the Waste. I mean, that's not fun, but the Wastes have shaken Max in this movie. He's been out there so long now that his mind is fraying away into little splinters, and that's fantastic. I said the War Boys. I love them. I love them. Faction, fashion, faction, fashion, faction, fashion. It's so cool. They look so cool. Um, I had to watch a couple of YouTube videos to understand this, but basically the War Boys go through a half life. I don't know why they're hit by it and not everyone else, but they're like hideously mutated. And Nux, I didn't realize this until I watched my neighbor's TV. Um, Nux has huge growths, tumors on his neck, and so he was reaching the end of his half life, and that's why Mad Max is strapped to the front of his car for the blood bag or whatever, because supposedly actual like healthy blood helps out with the blood poisoning of the radiation. Um, the War Boys are just so cool. Like before, when I said that the people. They use the buses as their way of life, and they use the war like the war boys' way of life are the cars. Like they have this shrine of steering wheels that is not even like it doesn't even seem like it's something protected. It seems like it's something like holy to them, like sacred. And they're crazy little culture where like this like warrior culture with rebirth and just the way they're frenzied, but most of all the way that they like become like expendable. Like they like the expendability. Like as they're chasing Max down on the when he's running away at the beginning, you know, there's just one guy that just falls to his doom, and it's like none of them skip a beat, and it's just it's great. Um, their war rigs are so cool. The way they do war, the pole vaulting thing, and see, um, the pole vaulting thing had been done, I believe, in the second and the third one. Like, there's actually two different. Oh yeah, and the second one, the guy pole vaults the guy whose boyfriend gets killed. He pole vaults to leave the facility, and I think there's a pole vaulting scene in the first one where they jump on a tanker or something. And so that comes to fruition with the pole vaulting things. I like the fact that they're morale driven. Like their force is basically like held together just by the tenets of morale. That's who they are. They're the war boys. And so this facet of war, you know, ends up becoming their identity. This idea of high morale, and the whole time they're just having so much fun. It's great. You're having fun with them, even though Max is killing them because they don't care. They're gonna be reborn. I live, I die, I live again. And when the guy asks when he's like, "Witness me," and his homies say, "Witnessed," oh my gosh, chills up my spine every time. That hits so hard. And so there's all these amazing things that happen. And like I said, they were building onto the pole vaulting from earlier. There are actually a couple bad and or unreleased Mad Max video games, shows, cartoons. But in this whole gap between Thunder, Escape the Thunderdome, and Mad Max 4 or Fury Road, and so all the best things from these failed projects got put into this movie. War Boys were blessed with so much of it, and just I don't know, just watching them play is just so much fun. Their vehicles are cool. They're so merciless. The way they tear apart Max's car, and it's great. And then there's like two other factions. There's the spiky people, and there's the motorcycle men, and they're so distinct in the way they do things. You know, the motorcycle guys jump around and throw useless bombs. The car guys go around and do useless car spiky stuff, but it's still so cool. It's just so cool. Faction fashion, just at a fucking premium here. I mean, I want to get in shape just so I can be a war boy one year for Halloween. It's my greatest motivation, just because their aesthetic is just so simple. Maybe not the spray paint. Furiosa, great character. She was the protagonist here, and I don't know. She and the maidens kind of have this narrative about you know who ruined the world or whatever, and it's kind of hinting that there's going to be this paradise, you know, unmolested by mankind, and it's going to be, I mean, unmolested by man. Sorry, and it just falls apart, and that breaks her, and that um, definitely hit some confirmation biases for me. Boy howdy, but it was just a great narrative though on how you couldn't have prevented the end of the world. I mean, you want to go back and think, okay, when something bad happens to me, I go through and I imagine 90 different ways I could have done things better. But you want to go back and you can't. You can't make these excuses. Everything that happened was for a reason, and the end of the world was inevitable at that point. Um, the maidens were all pretty much one character. They were pretty. I mean, they. I like that they didn't become invincible killing machines by the end of the movie or something. They were just still very vulnerable. I liked the old ladies because they knew how expendable they were. They were at the end of their lives, and so they were in it to win it. One of them, one of them wins, and I kind of like she survives the whole thing, and I kind of just want to bro fist her because that would be pretty rewarding. Max once again just has to like reluctantly find an alliance, and that's great in this movie. The way he interacts with them is fantastic because there's a point where it's not even decided what his alliance is. When he's chained up to Nux and he's fighting Furiosa and those girls, and it's just like there's this like intense, like I wouldn't even call it like a. I mean, the allegiances in that scene are shifting so quickly between who's on what side or this or that, and really just really well done. It's a trope where Max has to be. He has to figure out some way to be aligned with them, but I'm fine. I'm fine with it. Done perfectly. Done perfectly on this this movie. And so now we're going to get to what doesn't really work with Mad Max, and there's just certain things that are not super duper clear. Just the entire premise of the first movie, not super duper clear. I don't think it's not super duper clear what's going on. It's not super duper clear why those people that get raped at the beginning of the film are out there. I mean, it's clear that they're there to get raped because the director wanted them to be there. But it's just not super duper clear why they watched this hideous road gang come through and just tear up the city. It's not super duper clear like why they kind of just watched on the outside. I mean, it looked like they were having fun, but it seems like things would either seem out of place or these road gangs would end up becoming something of like a regularity to the point where you like you look both ways when you cross the street, but that's for the road gangs, no one else. It's not yeah, and they allude to this at the beginning with like the kill count on the roads, and so maybe there wasn't even a story here. Maybe they were just like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if the roads were all fucked up? Yeah, that'd be really cool. We could make a whole movie about that. That would be really splendid. And just, a little bit of violence here, there, light them on fire, cheer it out. Like, whatever Australian people, whatever Australian people sound like. I don't know what they fucking sound like. And so, it's not super duper clear why that asshole would have his trailer perpendicular to the road for so long. It's not super duper clear why there'd be a toddler there at the beginning. So there's just this like, I guess you end up just building a complacency at the beginning where it's just like, okay, this movie maybe isn't taking itself seriously. And so it's just not even super duper clear that it's a really serious movie. So the premise of the first one, pretty clear. But overall clarity, I'd say is fair. But the second one for me, and this, I don't know, it got me. I'm not the smartest cookie in the closet, but it's not super duper clear to me what the fuck is going on at the beginning of the Road Warrior, because you see him and he's looking at the gang, and they're around a compound. But I thought that was their compound, and I thought that it was their fuel, the bad guys. Like, I thought it was already there. You see the tankers, so I'm like, oh, they're there. That's probably their compound. And so it's not super duper clear where the scouts come from. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention but I'm not sure if they were leaving the compound or coming back to the compound. And so when they get torn apart by the Raiders, to me, I thought that they were just like randoms. I thought that they were just random idiots just like wandering around. And so it's just like, okay, the Raiders are going to raid. That's what I thought. But then Max takes one of the survivors to a compound. And so I thought that was a new compound. I thought that the first compound we saw was the bad guy compound. And so there's a friendly compound. So I was just like, where does this come from? So I had to talk to my neighbor. Maybe I'm just dumb though. And the third one, the premise is made, I guess, pretty. Yeah, everything's pretty clear. I think clarity is pretty solid just on what's expected and what's going to happen here or there. But in the last movie in 4, it's just not super duper clear why Max is at the front of that vehicle. I mean, I explained it earlier. It's because the War Boys needed a blood bag to clean. Nux needed the blood bag to clean out his blood. But the movie doesn't do a great job of it. Shows Mad Max's blood type, and it says high octane, and so it's kind of not really super duper clear what they're doing with him. And so that that's like the entire purpose of the movie, but it's clear that he's just there to be cool. Really standout stuff, I guess. Through it all, I'm gonna tell you which one's the best one in my opinion. And I after we watched all of them, I thought number 4 was my favorite. But I talked to my neighbor, and he was like, "I like the first one. It's the original. It's original." And that might be a layman's way of putting it, but they are all based off of it. I like actually now since he said that, I like the first one the most because it has the best pacing. The action scenes in the second movie are not that great. I mean, they're cool. There's some cool stuff. The mobile tanker scene. Don't get me wrong. That was a great set piece. It gets kind of like stale at times because there's an entire like sea of cars just sort of lounging or waiting around. And I mean, the action's all right, but it just doesn't have the context of the first movie. Every single engagement in the first movie, there's almost a progression. I mean, it starts off with that fatso with the rifle. He's peeping, tomming those people, which is super weird. And he's just like him and his friend are just going and his partner just going and chasing the bad guys. And so it's like, ha ha ha. And, one by one, they get taken off the road. And so it's kind of this carefree atmosphere, but things escalate. And there are fatalities, and people start getting serious, like much more serious. And then finally, it's just Max. The sergeant is just like, Max, we need you, and it's because it doesn't really matter what happens to those people. They're just going to die. He knows that. That's why he's not on the road. He doesn't want to die. They need drivers out there. Why do you think he's not out there? Because he's aware of this grim reality, but he knows Max is different. And I mean, man, I'm telling you, the scene where that guy gets lit on fire. Ooh. Boy, howdy. That really it kicked things up a notch. And so there's just so much more context. I think the key to these, and the action scenes in the first one, I won't even say were that much better than the second one. But the bad thing about Fury Road is it just loses its pacing. After that initial engagement with Furiosa's rig against the spiky people and then the War Boys, and then they top it off with the insane sandstorm. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a spectacle to behold, but the movie just doesn't really. It couldn't keep it up. It couldn't keep up that insane rhythm, like the movie has from the get go to the sandstorm. This like nonstop, almost action sequence, except when Furiosa's driving around sometimes, like when she leaves, and the whole thing is just nonstop, just like high octane, high energy, like wow. And so after that, the movie can't keep it up. Just can't keep it up. It feels like Thunderdome has like very distinct segments. It feels like mini segments are just very different. So I almost think the flow of number two is pretty good, but just the action, a lot of the cases just falls flat. Maybe I'm just a product of this generation or this millennial generation, but actually kind of falls flat in two and three. I mean, sorry, the dome in three was actually really great. That was fantastic. But the action kind of just falls flat in two, and three just doesn't have that spark. That, I don't know. I thought that four was going to be my favorite, but one is definitely my favorite, and I'm not even sure that it'd be fair to rank them after that. It's a great trilogy, or it's not a quadrilogy, I guess. It's not really a quadrilogy. It's just there's a lot of different stuff there, and I think it's worth a great watch. And maybe I'm just taking the whole thing too seriously. Maybe you need just a little bit of levity to have everything get carried away. But it just comes, I guess, as a bit of an inconsistency in the fourth one because it's really the details that make that movie shine. And so having to forget just a few of them just feels a little counterintuitive. But I mean, there's just the mutant offspring are all so cool. Everything's great. Watch them, watch them, watch them. It's hard to find Mad Max Fury Road right now. It used to be on Netflix. Kind of hard to find that now. But Dead Horses.